afternoon, and welcome to Moments with Pastor E. This is Pastor Idris Webb coming to you from NECTN. It's a beautiful Saturday afternoon, a little rainy, but who's complaining? So, this afternoon, before I do anything else, let me just pray. Father, we thank you for this day that you have made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Thank you for your many blessings. We give you the honor, we give you the praise, and we give you the glory. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. So this afternoon, I have with me a very, very special guest. You know, I always say my guests are special, and they are. But this young lady is very special. I've known her all her life. I think I was there when she was born. She's a wife, mother, worship leader extraordinaire. She's all kinds of things wrapped up in one. And it is my pleasure to introduce to you the lovely Mrs. Aisha Cardi.
Hello.
Hi, Aisha.
Hello.
How are
Hi,
you?
it is I. I'm here. I have arrived.
I bet you guys were wondering, well, who is this very, very special guest? Well, for those of you who don't know her, and I'm sure a lot of you do know her, she is my oldest daughter. So how are you, Aisha?
Doing great.
Welcome to Moments with Pastor E.
I feel welcome. Thank you.
Yes, yes. You're always welcome. Any place I am, you're always welcome. So I had Aisha on the show some time ago. And some of you may have seen the show when we were, focusing on our hair and the different changes that we have gone through over the years. And since then, as you can tell, I have gone to braids. And you're still with your locks.
Yes, they're
Yeah,
still here.
Still there. Getting longer and longer and longer. But we're not going to talk about hair today. That's for another time. Because what I really want to do is to bring back all the girls
Oh, that'd
that
be
were
great.
on that show.
Yeah, that'd be
and
nice.
chronicle our hair journey
Yeah.
where we left off.
Yeah.
Because some of us have transitioned to something else, others have stayed the same, but we'll see.
All right.
So it's been so busy though. Everybody is running here and there.
Yeah, trying to coordinate everybody's
Right,
schedule
so
is kind of
trying
tough.
to schedule is very, very hard.
And especially the summertime. too.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, because one of the ladies is away in Atlanta this weekend.
Okay.
So it's so hard to pull people together, but we'll make it happen because we did it before, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Aisha, so I said you're a wife, you're a mother, and you brought me into this elite group,
Hey.
which is the grandparents group.
Oh, wow.
On social media, they got all kinds of groups that they want you to join, all types of groups.
Yeah.
So I think I was driving here and I thought maybe I should start a grandparents group.
There might be one already.
I haven't seen one.
Oh.
I have not
Okay,
seen
well, be the
one.
pioneer of
I
that.
may be the pioneer, but somebody might just steal my idea because I just said it. But I am so proud to be a part of that elite group
All
of
right.
grandparents.
Well, praise the Lord for you. I'm glad.
Praise the
that
Lord.
the Lord
for
did
you.
it for you.
Yes, yes. Because when you were pregnant and I announced it, everybody was like, those who had gone before, being grandparents, they said, it is the most wonderful experience. It's nothing like, this woman said to me, you think you love your children, and we all do. But when the grandchildren come, it's a different story. And it's true. But you guys are in a different category. You're in a different category.
Yeah.
I love you as a daughter.
Yeah.
But the grandchildren are very, very, very special. These little people are very, 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 you can't.
Well, they're the next generation, right?
Yeah, you can't explain it. It's hard to explain. Not that you don't love your children like you used to, because I love you unconditionally.
Okay.
But the grandchildren just does something different, and you become a different person.
Okay. Well, it remains to be seen for me.
Well,
Later,
you are
later.
way down the road, honey.
Yeah.
Don't
I'm
even
like,
think about
I
it.
can't, chat with you on that because I have no idea.
No, because your kids are what?
Hmm.
12 going on 13
Hmm.
and 6 going on 7.
Hmm.
So you got a ways to go, honey.
Yes.
But the other day, it was so funny on social media. This guy said, I looked at my mother and I said, who in the world is this woman? Because he was like, what these grandchildren get away with, we
Would not have.
would have been dead. He said,
Yes.
I don't know who this woman is. And I did watch my mother too. My mother became a completely different person with the
Hmm.
grandchildren.
Hmm.
Like, don't hit. Don't. And I'm
Wait,
like,
are you sure that was Granny?
this woman would spank you at
Mm.
the drop of a hat. If you looked at her the wrong way,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, she was transformed into this person that would be in tears if you smack your own children,
Hmm.
you know? But that's the story on grandparents. You have
Okay.
no idea. But there's somebody out there watching me, somebody who understands this, who's
Right.
a grandparent,
Right.
that
Yeah.
these little people are very, very special.
Yeah.
And I guess it doesn't matter how old they get. Because I look at TJ now, he's going on 13. But I still see him as this little
Peanut.
boy.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to do some transformation to you know,
Yeah.
understand how to deal with him, how to speak to him, how
Yeah. Well, me too.
yeah.
So that's it's loading. Right? Loading. We'll see.
What does it feel like for you having a soon-to-be teenager?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I was talking to, um, on a group chat with my girlfriends the other day, a group of us, and one of my girlfriends said, "You realize that we're about to have teenagers? Some of us." Um, One of my group girlfriends, she has a young adult already in college,
Right.
finished first year, and we're like, "How did this happen?" And another one of my girlfriends has, two of them have 16-year-olds, and you're like, how did that happen? That's crazy. Um, and funny story, both of those girlfriends were in our wedding, and both of those girlfriends were pregnant in our wedding.
Yes.
So it was kind of a funny thing because I was not a bridezilla, but I was told that it was probably one of the only times that they were afraid of me to tell me that they were pregnant because I said nobody could be pregnant in the wedding. And the only reason I said that is because they didn't have the color of the dress that I chose in a
In
maternity style.
maternity, yeah.
Yeah, so in any case, the rest of us are approaching that same category, of heading toward teenage year this year. And I'm like, wow, that is quite amazing thinking about it that we got to the double digits. And I thought that was, like a big thing, like,
Yeah.
oh, we went from 9 to 10. Yay, double digits. Whoa, this is so
Right.
crazy.
Right.
And it's like, wait a minute. Teenage years are different. Am I ready? I'm not sure. And I don't know how one can really say that they're ready.
Right.
You just kind of have to go with the flow.
Yes.
I feel like that's how parenting works, really.
Yes.
You get advice from others, and you see how, your mother mothered, and you see how your grandmother mothered, and you see how your friend group, how they mother, how, they parent. Um, and then you kind of have to see how they navigate certain things and determine if that's going to work for you. Because sometimes what works for one child may not work the same way for another.
And that's what I was going to say. Every child is different.
Yeah.
You know, um, because I remember in my case, I have two girls. Most of you know that. and you guys are 16 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a completely different generation,
Yeah, and a complete different way of
different way of
mothering.
mothering
Yeah, because
when Nicola
you
came.
mothered me different than you mothered Nicola. Can we get into it?
Go ahead.
Can we get into it?
Speak the truth
Um,
and shame the devil.
I was a pretty good kid. So you know, I feel like I still had a certain, you know, um, reverence, and there was a little bit of fear, but that's kind of good because you know when you get that little eye that says, you know, you better straighten yourself up right now. Don't let me come back there. Okay, don't let me hear you come up. Don't do it. You don't want to do it, and you know you understand that. But then when your sibling comes and they talk back, and you don't see the rod coming or a shoe flying, you're like, wait a minute.
I didn't throw any shoe
you didn't throw
at
no
you.
shoes,
No,
but I'm just saying.
there was no shoe.
You know, it's like, wait a minute, that would have been handled differently. You're there waiting, like, oh, oh, it's about to go down. Oh, wait for it. I feel so bad for you. And then it doesn't happen the same way. And you're like, oh, okay. What a way to metamorphosize. Is this the same woman that raised me? Like, it's kind of weird.
And I remember you saying one time to Nicola,
Yeah.
girl, if I ever said that to my mother,
Yeah, talk back.
oh, oh, oh. But like you said, it, you guys were so far apart.
Mm-hmm.
And by that time, I had grown into or morphed into somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with in terms of parenting.
And it makes sense.
You mature
Yeah.
and you understand how to deal with situations as they come. See, with you, you were a very obedient child, and you know you didn't make waves.
Mm-hmm.
You did exactly what you were asked to do. There were very few times where
I was in trouble for something.
you were in trouble.
Yeah.
You were good kid. And I tell people all the time that if I had two kids that were just like you in their teenage years, I would have skated through motherhood like,
No, but the Lord had to challenge you.
yes, yes. So by the time number two came 16 years later,
Yeah.
oh, everything was why.
Yeah.
You say something to her, and I've never heard that word out of your mouth. Why? Like, why?
And it's a good thing, though. You know.
Absolutely.
What I mean? Because now, in my own parenting, if the why comes, you explain. You know what I mean?
Yes,
You're
yes.
like, okay, and sometimes you preface a lesson or something that you're talking to your child about and say, I'm going to tell you why this is happening.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you why I'm doing this or why I'm saying this, so that they have understanding.
Yes.
And I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yes.
But, you know, it's like you did and replicated what you learned.
Well,
right?
that's what I was going to say. I mean, when I was raised, it's like you don't talk back.
Right. You don't
You
even
don't
speak, really,
You don't
right?
speak. You don't get involved in grown people's conversation.
Right,
As a matter of fact,
right.
they ask you to excuse yourself
Yeah.
when the adults are in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And so you come to this parenting, whatever it is,
Yeah.
with the idea that this is how I'm going to parent, because this is what you know.
Yeah.
You
But you learn along
you-
the way. Like
exactly.
You know, it's like, okay, you did it that way, and maybe it works, and not saying that it was bad
Right.
necessarily,
Right.
but it worked, and that was the style.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you got to change some things
Yeah.
because I'm a different person to
Yeah.
who my mom was
Right.
when you were parenting, right? Us when we were younger. So I'm not going to do everything the same way that you do.
Absolutely not.
I'm going to pick and choose, and then I'm going to fumble sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how it is, you know. You're just kind of growing into
Yeah.
parenthood. I feel like you don't know everything.
No.
You could read books. There's lots of books to try to prepare you, and it's good. It's good to to consume things that will bring knowledge and wisdom to you, but you still have to move on the fly and make decisions on
Yeah.
the fly with all the variables
Yeah.
of your own
Yeah.
child or children.
Yeah.
So,
Because every child is different.
mhm,
And I had to learn that
mhm.
with Nicola. That I remember you saying, Mom, you have one emotional child here. Because she was very emotional. I think up to this day, you still have to handle her a certain way. Many years later,
Ah,
yes,
okay.
yes. There's some things that I would say to her, even to this day, that I have to be careful because she sometimes, gets in her feelings. She takes it. I could say something to you that you'll be like, whatever.
Mm.
But with her, it's a little different. But
Mm-hmm.
thank God, you know,
Yeah, we all have
everybody
different
is different.
sensitivities, right?
Yes.
And just certain things that she would let roll off her back that
Yeah.
I will be like, what?
Right.
No, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do kind of approach things a little bit differently in some things, right?
Yes.
And some things we're quite similar
Yes.
in how we approach it
Yes.
and how we respond.
Yes.
Mhm.
And for me, parenting you was trial and error
Right, right. I
because
was the first.
I
Yeah.
was only 21.
Yeah.
So I always joke about it that I had this little person in the hospital that I thought was the cutest thing this side of heaven. Like there was no cuter baby in Glendon Hospital.
Okay.
That's in Montserrat.
All right.
She was the bomb.
All right.
But it never dawned on me at that point that, okay, she's yours for a lifetime. Never dawned on me because I was 21. I
Yeah.
had the brain of a 21-year-old.
Right.
And so the day that I walked out of the hospital with you, I still didn't realize, okay, I'm going to have to guide this child. Whatever happens to her, I'm responsible.
Mhm.
That didn't dawn on me.
Yeah.
The first time it really hit me that this is mine was the first night I took you home. And you wouldn't sleep. You didn't stop crying.
Right.
And I was crying. And I'm up. I want to go to sleep.
And you were crying.
I'm crying because I want to go to sleep. I don't want this annoyance.
Uh-huh.
But what am I going to do? I'm stuck.
Yeah.
And then that was when realization kicked in that you don't get to just have this cute little bundle.
Yeah.
There is a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And many years later, she's still mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't have to parent you now.
Yeah. Well, you're still a
But
parent.
yes.
You do in a different way, right?
In a different way.
It still is parenting. 'Cause
Yes, I'm more like a counselor now. I've passed the parenting stage with both of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. You don't have to
but
raise,
No,
but you still.
but I'm still there.
But you're still parenting in the aspect that you're imparting wisdom,
Yes.
right, and knowledge, and sometimes advice when
Yes.
asked.
Yes.
Right.
When asked.
Yeah. But I think you're very good with that. I don't know if Nicola would say the same thing, but I know with me, it's like you generally kind of let me kind of do my thing, and if I say, "Hey, Mom, what do you think about this?" then you're like, "Oh, okay, let me add in," but you don't really, you're not aggressive in, "Oh, you need to do this," or "Oh, you should. Why didn't you?" Kind of thing. It's you kind of have to let your children, after a while, fly, right?
And let me tell you, and let me tell all of you this. You wouldn't let me either.
Yeah.
You're not the kind of person that I could say, you better do this or you better do that. But I don't believe in that either.
Yeah.
I believe when both of you are adults now,
Mm-hmm.
and if you come to me for advice, I'm going to tell you the truth though.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
Which is acceptable, and that makes a whole lot of sense.
Right.
You know?
I'm not going to make you feel that you're right when you're not.
Right.
Not because you're my child.
That's right.
I'm going to speak the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And however it goes over, because some people don't like you to tell them the truth.
Yeah.
They would come to you for your opinion, but they want to hear their opinion.
Yeah. They want agreement with whatever they're
Right,
bringing,
right.
to
And
you.
I'm not
Yeah.
that kind of girl.
Yeah.
If you're wrong, I'm going to tell you you're wrong.
Yeah.
And I believe, when kids have grown up and they're in a position to make their own decision,
Mm-hmm.
you have to let them.
Yeah, they should.
Because guess what? You're going to stumble, you're going to fall, just like I stumbled and fell
Yeah.
because I thought I knew everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes you think, okay, I got it, I
Yeah.
got it. And you stumble and you fall, but you pick yourself up. You
Yeah.
understand, how to correct these things. I don't think a parent, when children are grown, must be so present in their life that they demand of them exactly what they want.
Yeah.
It's not about that.
Yeah.
It's about being the ear, being there to listen,
Yeah.
being there to give your advice when asked,
Amen. Mm-hmm.
and not taking it upon yourself to say, well, I think you should do that. I think you should. No.
Yeah.
Because you're an adult. You
Yeah.
can think for yourself.
I listened to, it might have been a podcast I was listening to, and I remember the woman who was speaking, she said something that it resonated with me, and I'm still, younger in the parenting,
Mhm.
right? I don't have a 30, 40 or anything like that. I don't have any grown-ups yet. But one of the things that she said that resonated with me, and I said, oh, let me put that away, and so that it's in the memory bank, and then I'm going to kind of parent along the lines so that once this time comes, that it will all, make sense. So I'll tell you what she said. She said, you should parent your children so that when they grow up, when they get older, that they don't need you. Sounds crazy, right? They don't need you. And what she meant by that is they're not depending on you to
Right.
make decisions for them.
Right.
They're not dependent on you for everything, for their emotional and physical needs. They know that you're there. They know that you're available,
Mhm.
but they can make their own way in the
Yeah.
world. They can make their own decisions. They can stand on their own 2 feet, because they know who they are,
Yeah.
because you taught them
Yeah.
how to make decisions,
Right.
and what's right, what's wrong,
Yeah.
and so forth. So it's actually really a great lesson to be working consistently on pouring into your children and helping them to navigate
Yeah.
and make decisions.
Yeah.
So you put something before them, even
Yeah.
something simple. Remember,
Yeah.
Zoe doesn't really love dresses. She's not a fan. But on Sundays, I'm like, yeah, you can wear a dress or a skirt,
Yeah.
but I'm going to give you the choice.
Yes.
Right? So I
Yeah.
give her choices and I let her decide,
Mhm.
because we used to have a whole fight about wearing a dress or a skirt,
Yeah.
just period. And I said, you know what? It just dawned on me, call it maybe a divine intervention. Give her the choice. Let her make
Yeah.
the decision.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
what do you want?
Yeah.
Here are some choices.
Yeah.
What would you like to
Yeah.
do? And they learn from that they have a voice
Yeah.
and they can choose
Mhm.
and make decisions
Yeah.
for themselves. So they're not going to, at some point, they're not going to need you to make decisions
Right.
for them.
Right.
But they certainly can come to you if they are stuck,
Yeah.
and you still won't make the decision for them.
Right. And I think it's a good thing, because if you raise your children to be solely dependent on you, then it starts weighing on you,
Right.
because you have your own life.
Yeah.
You have your own issues. You're busy. Some of us are working parents. Some of us, are still in the workplace. And if we raise children who are so dependent on us that they can't make one move without consulting us, then we went wrong somewhere.
Yeah.
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 And I always wanted you guys, and I always thought about this, that when I was growing up, I wasn't a perfect child. I wasn't a perfect teenager. I did things like,
Mhm.
and I always say, if my parents ever knew how I behaved in school, with the boys,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I would have been dead. And if my children ever behaved like that and I knew, I
Mhm.
mean, you know what I'm saying? So my thing is, they're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
They are going to
Mhm.
trip over themselves. There are going to be some falls. But the good thing is, because you've instilled some things in them, they're
Right.
able to pick themselves back up
Yep.
and get back on track.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't expect that your children are going to be perfect, because we were not perfect.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's always room for kids to make a mistake.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. And I think also um, what's important in that lesson that kids should have the ability, or feel like they have space to make
Mm-hmm.
mistakes and errors, and it's not going to be held against them for all the days of their
Right.
lives. Um, us too, when we make errors, we should use it as an example. Say, hey, mommy messed up here, or I didn't do the right thing here, or I said this, or what have you, and just kind of show that you're not perfect either.
No.
Like, just because I'm your parent doesn't mean I'm perfect.
No.
I don't get it right all the time. Sometimes I think even today, we were doing a little cleaning, and I think I got short tempered, and I was like, oh, I don't even remember what I said, but TJ had this look like, well, why did you say that? Because I was only saying this. And I was like,
Oh.
you're right. Um, you're right. I don't know why I just was short tempered like that. And I apologize. I'm sorry. That was a mistake. So it's like you have to show that you too can make errors.
Oh,
You too can make
absolutely.
mistakes. And you have to show that,
Yeah.
gosh, I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
So certainly I don't expect you to
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
But we thank God for growth, because, you know, I understood later in life this is how things work. And our parents parented from the place that they knew.
Yeah.
And you can only pass on what you knew.
Yeah. And they parented from
Yeah.
a place, right, that they knew everything.
Right.
And
They knew everything.
you were a kid, so
Right.
you don't know anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when I started parenting too, very early, I thought I knew everything too.
Yeah.
And you have to adjust and change, and not giving kids, not because I don't like kids that are rude and
Yeah.
obnoxious.
I don't want any rude kids.
So I'm going to tell you at home, listen, when we go out there, this is how we behave.
Mm-hmm.
This is what's going on, because we're not going to the store and you're going to be throwing a temper tantrum in the store because you didn't get something.
Although you still have those, even though you have the discussion. I've had
Yes.
those still.
Yeah, but you know how to
after a while.
you know how to pull it back.
Yeah, after a while they understand. You're like, okay, listen, we talked about this. Okay, remember we had a whole discussion
Yes.
about this. Let's do something different this time around. How about that?
Yes.
Oh, do you remember Zoe used to do a whole screaming?
Oh, yes.
Sometimes she used to scream like she wanted something, and I'd have to say, listen, today's not your day.
Right.
Okay? You will have a day, but
Yeah.
today is not your
today.
day. And so we're going to have a good attitude,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to wait for our day.
Yes. I remember when I took them out bowling a few months ago. She lost. She
Mhm.
lost the game.
Yeah.
And she was getting all upset.
Mm-hmm.
And she was ready to boo-hoo.
Oh.
And her face fell. And I said, what's the matter? And I was so proud of myself because I was able to be like you in that moment. Very even keel.
Ah, good job.
I've come a
Mama.
long way, baby.
Hey, hey.
Come a long way. And so I said, what is the matter? And she said, I lost.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to cry when we lose, because there will be more times
Mm-hmm.
when you will lose. And if that's the behavior, the next time we come bowling, it would just be TJ and I.
Oh no.
Yeah, I did.
The threat.
I went there.
Man.
And it worked. She straightened right up. And by the time we went off to get something to eat,
Yeah.
she was a brand new person.
All right.
So
Okay.
sometimes you have to,
Yeah.
bring the hammer down a little bit. But
Yeah.
I was calm and composed. And,
Very good.
Because
you could have been like, all right, let's go. We're leaving.
let's
We're
go.
leaving.
We're leaving. I'm not putting up with
Everybody
this
has
foolishness.
a bad attitude. We can't do this now. I gotta go.
Yes.
We're not coming back ever. So
Yes.
it could have been that.
Yes.
But yeah. And they have to know sometimes you're gonna lose.
Yes.
And you are allowed to feel, you have emotions and you're allowed to express your emotions. And then after you face those emotions, then, reel it in. Reel it
Yes.
in, because you'll have another opportunity.
Exactly.
And maybe the next time you'll win.
Exactly.
You never know.
But you're 6 years old, and there's no crying here over losing.
I mean, we play Uno
yeah.
sometimes, and,
Mhm.
and sometimes, and when she wins, she
Oh
throws
yeah. Oh
it in
yeah.
your face,
In
like
your
it's in your
face.
face. Oh, but if she loses,
Yes.
it's like, ah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm like, well, sometimes you win,
Exactly.
sometimes you don't.
Yes. So this parenting thing, it's something else,
Yeah.
And I mean, you need the grace and the strength of God
Mm-hmm.
to do it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you one thing, and we're gonna leave shortly. So you're a mother, you're a wife, you work full time, you have 2 children. How are you balancing everything? I think I asked you this question before.
Yeah.
How are you able to balance everything?
Yeah, let's see what my answer is, because this time around, I'd love to see what I said the last time, to compare, because that was
years ago,
a couple of years ago, right?
after the pandemic.
Yeah. So I'm curious what my response was then. How do you balance? It's really tough. I think it was during the pandemic, or maybe shortly after.
It's right after the pandemic.
Yeah, because I remember
you were home
referencing, how
Yeah.
difficult
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
to be balancing
Yeah.
being a teacher
Yes.
and all of
Yes.
this at home
Yeah.
every day,
Yeah.
like 24/7.
So that's off your
so,
plate now.
So that's a bit off the plate, because, everybody's back in their space. But balancing is still hard, because it's a lot, right? Because, you're trying to manage yourself.
Mhm.
You're trying to have a space where you can have a little bit of quiet time, a little bit of peace.
What is that?
And that's hard to do. And I find myself, I feel like running out of time in the day,
Mhm.
right? So there are times when I stop, and my watch helps me with that, where it's like, okay, time to stand up. And so I get up from
Mhm.
the workday and go walk, if it's up and down the steps
Yeah.
a couple times, just take a break, take a breather. Sometimes I just sit for about a minute, another watch thing.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Apple. We're not sponsored by them, but
Yeah.
But it has a minute of breathing, where you just do an inhale, exhale. And I do that every now and again, periodically throughout the day, to balance self.
Yeah.
Right? And to reduce stress and anxiety, because you have work, you have to balance children and their schedules, and is the husband coming home? What time? What are we doing for
And
dinner?
homework.
Is somebody bringing home dinner? Are you bringing home dinner? Or are we making dinner together? Or am I making dinner? Or the kids want to participate? So all of that is a little difficult, but you just kind of make it happen.
Yeah.
And you need your village. So
Mhm.
the village, you hear me talk about the village, or your tribe, is very helpful and very strong. Get yourself a village. If you don't have one, you need to create a village. You need people. Um, my sister is very helpful, and she helps me on the weekends with the kids, and karate and so forth. So that's like, okay, you get a couple little hours to do something. Sometimes it's something for myself. sometimes it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I get an opportunity to do this load
Yeah.
of laundry, a couple loads of
Yeah.
laundry or whatever. So it's balancing by, taking a little bit of space and time for yourself to decompress and to de-stress, and, you know, kind of your partner balancing and saying, hey, partner,
Yeah.
husband,
I need this.
I need this.
Yes.
Like, Sunday, I need you to be, you're going to be great. You're going to be here. Okay, so you're on kid duty, and I'm going to be doing this
Yes.
for self. And then you have your family members and friends of the family who chip in when
And you have your exercise time too, which you're
Yeah.
very vigilant about
Yeah, in the morning.
in the morning. So,
Yeah, I try to get up. Um, it's not that I want to. It's
Yeah,
not that
right.
I
No.
feel so excited about doing it, but I know that it's necessary, and it's good. It's good for your body. It's good for every part of you. Cardiovascular. It's good for your brain. It helps to sharpen you
Yeah.
to prepare for
Yeah.
work. So I take that little bit of time, even if it's half hour
hmm
on the treadmill or the Peloton, whatever it is, and just do that.
That's good. And now these two girls are trying to parent me into going to the gym, doing this, doing that, doing the other.
I
So,
mean,
um,
you don't have to go to
I'm
the
not
gym,
going to the
but
gym, number one. Let me tell you guys that.
you need to move
But
though.
I've started walking in the mornings. We
Mhm.
couldn't go last week because it was way too hot in the mornings.
Mhm.
So we forgot that. I mean, it was like 90 degrees when you get up.
Yeah.
It was so hot. I mean, you would pass out in the park.
Mhm.
But I'm trying to get better. I'm listening to you guys now.
Well, thank you.
The roles are reversing now. Instead of me telling you, you're telling me now.
Yeah.
That's how life goes.
Like
when,
a reverse parenting.
yes, when you
Right.
get old. Um,
or seasoned.
seasoned.
Yes.
Old. I'm going to say old,
Mhm.
So, and now I'm retired.
Yeah.
So,
So you definitely have to keep moving,
Yes.
because if you're not doing all the movement that you were accustomed
Right.
to during the day, during
Yes.
the work week, you got to keep moving.
that's right. That's
You-
right.
What is it? What's the phrase? If you don't,
If you don't use it,
you
you lose it.
and it's,
yes.
it's actually very
Yes.
true. So you don't rotate these ankles a
Yes.
little bit. Guess
Yes.
what? All of a sudden they're gonna get stiff on
Yes.
you. So you got to move.
Okay, let's get off of that.
I'm
we were
just
talking.
saying.
We were talking about parenting.
I'm just saying.
So, so now that I'm retired too, and since I'm part of this village, I'll be helping out in some instances too.
Yeah, like the other day you came
I
this
know.
week and you were like, hey,
Yeah, the other day.
what are you guys up to? Do you think the guys might want, the kids might want a little treat? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, Monday I just thought about it.
That was
I was
sweet.
leaving work, and I said leaving work. I do go to work, even though I'm retired. But it's not work.
Yeah,
it's not work. Because they say if you do what you love,
Mm-hmm.
you don't work a day in your life.
Right.
So now I'm doing pastoral care at the
Yes.
place I used to work. So I go in and we have service in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. On Friday, we had about 15 people.
That's amazing.
Yes, they were all there. When I got there, they were all there,
Wow.
seated and ready to go. So we have service, I preach and I play music and they clap and,
Yeah.
and they help me out. And they actually give
That's
me,
great.
one of the ladies said, why don't you talk about people in the Bible? And I said, we do.
What you think we talking
I
about?
know we talk about. So I said, who would you like me to talk about? And she said, Abigail.
Oh, nice.
Well, now I
Okay.
had to come home and I
And
knew
study.
Abigail was David's wife,
Yeah,
but
now you
I had
gotta
to come
study.
home and brush myself
Yeah,
up,
yeah,
and see what's going on here with Abigail.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. So I get to do that
Mhm.
for about 45 minutes, and then an hour and 15 minutes I do room visits. So I
Mhm.
visit the people who can't come to the chapel,
Yeah.
and anything that comes up in between.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Mhm.
And so then, I was leaving work and I thought, would the kids like a little treat?
Yeah.
And
that
so
was really special.
I called
They
you
were
up like,
excited.
oh, what would they like? I'm going to McDonald's,
Mhm.
and they were excited.
Yeah.
So,
They were.
that's part of parenting too. That's part of thinking about,
Well, you're in the grandparent mode,
yeah,
so.
these little people,
Yeah.
and they would like a little treat now and then. So,
Mhm.
you know, um,
And then you're gonna have some times when you're gonna have them for the weekend or
yes.
yeah.
Oh yeah, you
Let
put
me pencil it in because
you
I got a few things coming
you
up.
put in your order, Aisha. Well, I had them for a weekend just a few
Yes.
few weeks ago.
Well, hey.
Yeah, well, that's grandparents' duty,
Yeah.
and we're happy to have them
Mhm.
because when they were leaving, Zoe Zoe said, "Are we gonna get to come back to your house, Lola?"
Like, why wouldn't
And
you?
I said, "Yes." And TJ goes, "Oh, Lola, we miss you already." And that warmed my heart. So, Aisha,
Yes.
thank you so much for being on.
No, this was great.
And I know somebody out there they have gotten a little, insight, because people struggle all the time with how this parenting thing works.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no manual, there is no book.
I mean, there are books, but not
No,
specific for
what
your
I'm
kid,
saying,
right?
what I'm saying is that there is no manual, no book that
Yeah.
is specific
For yours, yeah.
to your children. Yes, you can read, gain knowledge.
Oh, yes.
We always do.
Yeah.
But when it comes to your own children,
Yeah.
You
They
just
didn't
have
come
to.
with one.
No, they didn't come with their
Like,
manual.
man, where's the one for TJ?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So you have to figure it out along
Yeah,
the way.
yeah.
And understanding that you have to do what works for your family.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we look at other people with their children and we figure,
Yeah.
okay, why am I not doing this one? Well, it may not be conducive to your family, so you have to make it personal to you and
Yeah.
what works for you
Yeah.
and your schedule and your spouse's schedule, and however you have to work it, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
And I do admire the way you parent your children,
Aw.
because I think you're very thoughtful and very intentional about the things you do, and you don't miss a beat. Like you
I
always
try.
on top of what their needs, like
Yeah.
what they need, what they and a lot of parents are like that.
Mhm.
Some of
Mhm.
us weren't that organized.
Mhm.
I could say that for myself. I wasn't as organized as you were.
Oh, well,
And
in some areas,
in
I'm
some
not,
area,
but,
right. And
Mhm.
sometimes we didn't have the means to.
Mhm.
That's another thing.
Mhm.
Sometimes we were all in different spaces trying to make the $5 stretch to do everything that we needed to do.
Yeah, I'll try
You
to
know,
make $1 out of 15 cents.
exactly.
Yeah.
And these days, things are, even better for our children, the next generation,
Yeah.
so they can do more. Things are available to them that were not available to
Yeah,
us.
that's true.
So, but we thank God for what we did.
Yeah.
And
You worked with what you had,
yes,
right?
yes,
So,
and I'm very proud to sit here and say that God has helped me to raise two beautiful young ladies.
hitherto,
Hitherto, as the Lord helped us. It wasn't about me and my abilities, and because God knows I tripped up sometimes. Um, but God has been my helper.
Yeah.
And the one thing that makes me happier than anything else in the world is that both of you are serving the Lord.
Yes.
You know,
Amen.
that is what makes me happier than, what you have achieved,
Yeah.
your education.
Yeah.
That is all fine and good. But I am more delighted, like Joshua said, as for me and my house,
Yeah.
we will serve the Lord. And for those of you who
Yeah.
have children that are not serving the Lord, don't give up on them, because my children were not always saved. Hello, just putting it out there. They weren't
Well.
always saved, so don't even think, oh, you were so, it was a lot of prayer and fasting, and a lot of give and take here, and you can rest assured that once you have put your children in the hands of God, that they will be okay. They may not be doing what you want them to do right now, but all of your children will be taught of the Lord.
Yes.
And great will be the peace of your children. Hang in there, be patient with them, Don't beat them up with the Bible every time you see them. Just love them into the kingdom. That is what I have to say. Because
Yes.
that's the method I used. I didn't beat them over the head with the Bible every time I saw them, because that would have chased them away. But I just prayed for them, and I just said, on Sunday morning, as long as you live in my house, doesn't matter how old you are, we are going to church.
Yeah.
And that was the only rule that I laid down.
Yeah,
And they
that's true.
followed.
That's true.
And eventually they came to the Lord. So take courage. Don't be discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
Well done. What you have done for your children, tap yourself on the shoulder that you did very well.
With
And
what
just
you had.
just continue to
Mm-hmm.
do what you're doing, and just continue to pray for them, because now that they're adults, we can only pray.
Mm-hmm.
We can't force them to do anything that they don't want to do.
Yeah.
But we have God on our side. And with God on our side, we can accomplish
Yeah.
anything that we put our hands to. Any final words?
Yeah. You reminded me of, and you're gonna laugh, of a few years back. It's been some years back, because the little girl then is a whole young lady now, but she got in trouble when we were at a conference with her mom, and her mom was ooh so ready to tear her up. But what did she say to her mom? Thank you for bringing me to Jesus. Oh, okay. What are you gonna do with that now? What if you were mad? Like, what are you gonna say?
Oh my
What are you gonna say now?
gosh.
But it just, while you were speaking, it just reminded me of that memory, and I was like, that is the greatest gift that you can, just as you said, that you can give to your children, and that's why they can be found in the house of the Lord.
Yes.
Half of the time, you think that they're not paying attention, but they do. They do pick up on stuff. Like
Yes.
you used to tell me that too. You're like, sometimes you think that TJ and Zoe, they're not listening, and then you'll hear them like burst out in a worship song
Yes.
at a Target or
Yes.
something
Yes.
like that, something random.
Yeah.
But just continue to pour into them, and it's the foundation,
Yes.
right? That
It
when
is.
they grow old, they can't. It's going to be hard for them to depart from
Yes.
what is their foundation, the building blocks of who they are, right?
Mhm.
So,
They would stray away. They would do little
Yeah.
things, but
but
they
they still
always
have
come
that
back.
foundation, right?
And you almost brought me to tears the other day when you said to me, "Thank, thank you
Uh-huh.
for introducing me to Jesus." So
Yes.
I'm paraphrasing,
Yeah.
but that's what you said, and it almost brought. I had to fight back the tears.
Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yes,
It's a
because
beautiful thing.
you-
What other gift is greater than Jesus?
yes,
Right?
yes, and so I thank you so much for being here. It is
Yay.
always a pleasure.
I had a
Thank you for
great
taking
time.
time out of your busy parenting day
Thank you.
and spending time on Moments with Pastor E. And I hope everybody out there, you enjoyed this session. And I just want to say, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. I want to say I love you, and join us again next week when we'll have another guest. And you never know what we'll be talking about. So stay tuned. God bless you. Love you. Tomorrow morning from 9 to 10, we'll be back here in the studio, Ebenezer House of Worship, with the worship leader extraordinaire. Will be on the floor tomorrow morning. So join us if you can. God bless. Love you.